Just to kick things off, what do you look forward to the most this year at the 27th Real Asian Film Festival?
Every year is different in terms of we show different films every year. So that's what I'm looking forward to in terms of how are people going to respond to the stories that we've, sifted through and found and are going to present this year. So in that respect, it's always a surprise. And it always makes you a little bit nervous too, right? But hopefully there'll be a good response to this year's selection, which we're really proud of.
Do you mind giving us like a little bit of a teaser of what's to come for The Queen of My Dreams, the opening night of the film festival?
Yeah, Queen of My Dreams is Fazia Mirza's feature debut. Fazia's had her previous short films playing at Real Asian for several years now, so it's really cool to see this culmination in the first feature, which is such a lively, bright, and meaningful story about a daughter who's really, learning to understand her mother, her motherland, in a way that I think will reach a lot of diasporic audiences, whether you are Pakistani, South Asian, or not, right? It's just a really nice intergenerational story and told with a love of cinema in it as well. So it's just bright, colorful, a lot of fun, touching all these things that you would want in an opening night film.
What kind of documentaries are some highlights this year at the festival?
A really good selection of documentaries this year that kind of run a gamut of kind of personal narratives, but also using form in an interesting way. So a couple of films that I can think of right now are Q, which is by Jude Shahab. This is playing the festival circuit and really happy to be showing it to Toronto audiences. On the surface, it's a mother-daughter story, but it's all within the context of why Jude's mother was so devoted to this group, the Anisa, which was active in Lebanon and Syria, and then eventually got kind of pushed out of the group and kind of devastated her mother and really affected the family. So Jude really dives into it, both in a very intimate way. The approach to it and its formal look and structure is really interesting. Jude is a cinematographer, but also it accesses bigger ideas about faith and devotion and how those aren't the same things, right? And so I think the care and the nuance that Jude kind of takes on this challenge of talking to her mother is so interesting, and I hope a lot of people see it. Another film is called Starring Jerry as himself, and another film that is kind of investigating the story of a parent, but this time Jerry is a Chinese American living in Florida, and he gets scammed through a phone scam. But what they did is the filmmakers, the producers, the son of Jerry, they decided to take all this testimony that they were trying to, provide to the FBI, and they're like, well, what if we made a movie and reenacted all the things that happened to Jerry? And so, it's this really great portrait of a family and Jerry as this character, and he plays himself in this, and so it kind of unfolds as this, and it really retells about how he got sucked into this idea of being an informant for these Chinese police that ended up being fake, of course.
That also sounds very fun. Also, like kind of like very family oriented, I guess, right? It's like the
Yeah,
reenactment. I was also wondering about more about Taste of Mango. Could you talk about that a bit as well?
right. So this is Chloe Abraham's film. Chloe's from the UK, and it's another intergenerational story. And this is one that it's so lovely to see in that she's really exploring past traumas and family secrets, but in a way that is so you can tell the filmmaker did so much work to really try to understand her mother and her grandmother and all of the kind of fraught relationships that caused their situations, but really is diving into it with a lot of compassion and grace towards her family members, which I think sometimes in those intergenerational stories, especially with a lot of trauma in it, it can be a narrative of a lot of anger, right? And there's certainly a lot of reason to without spoiling the film. There are a lot of reason to be in this story. It's quite intense, but there's a lot of love in it as well. And so you know, I think that you know, it provides a great like template for people to have those intergenerational conversations.
One more documentary I want to quickly ask you about is just you kind of talking about the film We Will Be Brave.
This one is a really great documentary that is focusing on an organization that is active in Toronto called Good Guys, which really tries to gather men of color to talk about issues of masculinity, especially toxic masculinity, and work through those issues towards overcoming that, and realizing that there's a lot of structural and systemic things that influence that, along with cultural influences. And so it really tracks the story of this group as how they work through art therapy, through building community towards you know, men just trying to do better, right? And it takes a lot of twists and turns along the way, because you know, those kinds of things are never linear. And so it really tracks that, and we're really looking forward to having that, you know, bringing that community together and showing that, showing men that there are these spaces where they can be vulnerable to each other and accountable to each other too.
I'm just wondering, how can real Asian filmmakers benefit or help aspiring documentary filmmakers?
Yeah, so I mean, I think filmmakers are very generous in terms of sharing their journey, uh, and every film is a journey that takes a lot of twists and turns. And so, um, you know, I think, and filmmakers are also very generous in terms of like being able to meet people and talk candidly about it. You know, it may not be in the public forum as much, but so I think that building those relationships, that community, is something we try to provide a space for in terms of having community times with our happy hours and whatnot, and just really trying to make sure that there aren't divisions between our feature and shorts filmmakers, the shorts filmmakers tend to be more emerging, that kind of thing. And then we have a Real Ideas series, which is kind of industry and education based about you know, different issues in the industry. We also have, and you know, this might be not exactly documentary, although there is a documentary in it. We're doing a program called First Films, which is really about that conversation about filmmaking as a journey. So we take three filmmakers who have, you know, achieved some great things in their career. For instance, Sammy Khan is a Oscar nominated documentary filmmaker. And what we're doing is we're taking these three filmmakers, Renika Jayapalan and Joyce Wong, and we're showing one of their first films, right? With the idea that you know, none of them are genius auteurs, right? They worked really hard to get to the point where they are, and what are the lessons that they took away from these first films. And we're going to make fun of them a little bit too. We're going to tease them a little bit about those early films too. But you know, that's something that really trying to break open the mystique of filmmaking. And I think if that is possible, then filmmaking maybe feels more possible to more people.
How does Raw X
Mhm.
engage with community members, and what are some highlights that you can, I guess, talk about?
So RAX is kind of our segment of the program that if it's non-traditional film presentation, then it can kind of encapsulate a lot of different things. And we have three really great programs. You know, because I think Canada itself has such a rich media arts tradition, and that's another site for storytelling. And so we have one show called Pigeonhole by Emi Sumora, who it takes the idea of these pigeons that would always visit her windowsill and imagines them as a K-pop band, right? So it's this whole media installation built off of music and zany imagination, and people will be able to collage. And so it's like it's a space for people to gather, be a little bit silly, make and contribute to the art piece itself. And so that's going to be really fun. And, and I think people need to have a space to be where they can be outside of their literal identity, and just have a little bit of fun and be silly. Another program is called the Sari Sari Exchange, and this is a part of a larger research project that we're doing that provides resources for Asian Canadian artists to experiment with XR technology. So another site for storytelling, another form of storytelling. So there will be some, works in progress that can be experienced by people, VR, AR, 360. They're all works in progress, and so I haven't seen any of them. So it's going to be really exciting to see that. And lastly, and not least, is a project called 80,000 Steps, and this is by an artist named Crystal Chan from Montreal, who is sharing this interactive podcast, which is basically a podcast and a pedometer at the same time. And so it's called 80,000 Steps, and you listen to the episodes and you interact with it by walking, which is framed that way because she used to take a lot of walks with her grandmother, who would tell stories of their family's history, kind of weaved in with mythology and stuff. But it revealed to herself, as an adult, she realized that a lot of those stories were framed against the Chinese Civil War and all this history that was very fraught. But her grandmother kind of reshaped it or recontextualized it for a child. So it's a way to kind of retrace those steps. And so that'll be really interesting. There's going to be a walk around where people can walk with Crystal and experience the app together. So it's also an accessible version too. So you don't have to, if you're not able to walk, you can also experience the app too.
How exactly do you curate your shorts presentations like Under the Influence, and how do experimental documentaries like Pixels of the Orient play a role in these short presentations?
In terms of our shorts presentations, I work with a really great programmer named Kelly Lui, and she's our shorts programmer. So I won't take any of the credit for what she does, but we talk about how to make shorts programs with a lot of intent and kind of based that relate to each other, and that you come out of the theater, it wasn't just a buffet table of things thrown onto a dish, that they all kind of like all the ingredients work together, right? And so a film like Pixels of the Orient or some of our other experimental films, we generally try not to have like the experimental program, right? It's nice to throw those in because next to like maybe a more dramatic scripted piece or a straightforward documentary, because maybe they have threads that connect them. And that also might be a place where if you're going to a shorts program, you're going to see something that is working with form, doing something different that you wouldn't have experienced otherwise. And furthermore, I think short films, that's where the most experimentation comes from, whether it's a capital E experimental film or not. A lot of people are trying new things out, different storytelling methods, different forms. And so shorts program is always super exciting in that respect. And we want to give people that experience too.
Why is it important for audiences to get out and see movies on the big screen this year at Real Asian?
That's one of those things that I think people are still remembering, needing to remember that it is a different experience to watch something with other people. It is a different experience to watch something on a larger scale, on a larger screen with amazing sound, which all of our venues have. So it's just so much more immersive, and the way that the story can be told that way is meant for that space. And sure, we all love holing up at home sometimes and watching something in a cozy space, but also community is cozy too. So that's really meaningful when you're watching it together. I think you gain a different understanding of something when others are experiencing it with you. So I would say that, and again, a lot of these films are intended for this type of presentation. We talked about Q before. that is a film that is going to be great on a big screen. It's just in terms of its sound design, the way that the shots are framed, um, the it's something that is like it necessitates a viewing in a theater. So and a lot of the so many of the films are like that. And so yeah, I mean, another reason is to support these filmmakers, who many of whom are spending years on these projects and a lot of resources and time. Support the filmmakers by showing up and showing them that you're curious about their work.
What makes Real Asians stand out from other film festivals?
I think that our in that, like, we do what we do, right? And we try our best to do that. I think our programming team puts a lot of care into the selections, like the conversations that we have that go into what we show, how it works with other selections that we show. I hope that that is apparent in terms of when you look at the program as a whole. And I think that people who come to Real Asian have a great experience, and that's in large part due to the rest of our staff, our operations and our marketing and all that, right? All the things that you don't notice but you feel, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what I like to think we do well. And I remember a filmmaker once saying that Relation was really cozy, right? And I like that, actually, because that is kind of the vibe that we want to promote, right? This is a place to experience cinema and in a cozy community. So I guess that's how I'd say it.
That is beautiful, and I love ending off at that note. It is cozy, it is community, it is everything you would expect and want from a film festival with everything you guys provide and all the things that you curate. So thank you so, so much for again taking the time of your day to speak with me. And I bet a lot of people will be excited to hear from the video, of course, and the interview of what you guys have to offer in terms of documentary as well as programming.
For sure. Thank you so much.